We commence our journey driving to the furthest most points of the African continent in a 1300 Toyota Tazz.
This episode covers our travels from the southern part of Mozambique into Malawi.
Get comfortable and enjoy the next section of this adventure. On day 31, we departed from XaiXai, heading north along the coast, and started the day with holes in the road large enough to engulf the whole Tazz. As soon as we hit the highway, there were an above average number of truck accidents along the way, and we drove through many bustling villages, all selling similar varieties of vegetables, cell phones and bicycle parts. We hugged the coast until reaching a dead-end sand road in Inhambane, and the closest campsite was Fatima's Backpackers on the beach, and we set up a cozy camp for a few days. During the day, I attended to some consultation architecture work, and at night time we went out crab hunting and making exquisite vegetable dishes. I love you, Mama Africa. That man was me. Day 36, we left for Vilanculos. Our petrol tank was empty and our wallets as well. But through a misunderstanding, we managed to get a quarter tank of petrol for $3 and we could make it to our destination. Once again, a sunset and semi-good roads provided a delightful drive, and we heard about a campsite called Baobab, which we reached at night time. The place was fantastic, located under luscious trees right next to the beach, and we agreed with the managers to stay for free in exchange for a few live gigs for his other traveling guests. One night Yaku played with the fire and he managed to burn his hand with melting plastic. It didn't seem too bad at the time.
We had a very comfortable campsite with our minimal equipment and went to the beach and chased some crabs during the low tide. The only floating boat was this toy sailboat built from beach garbage.
In the afternoon, we went to the local market to get cheap supplies, and we soon acquired a local guide, a live chicken, veggies and amazing memories. This market had a lot for sale, but the variety of seafood was spectacular. I had to try a fish prepared the way the locals prefer it.
Good, Alex. Hello everyone, my name is Yaku as well, or Jacob Johannes Petrus. I'm 23 years old, musician by trade, and this is my first time traveling. And by some miracle, this other Yaku convinced me to drive through Africa in his Toyota Tazz. Yeah, stupid, I know. But I said yes, and here we are.
We headed back to our campsite with big smiles and prepared the chicken with our last bottle of Jimmy sauce. A highlight from Afrikaans culture, the braai of course, something we enjoy on a regular basis along this trip. The next day, Yaku's hand was worse than we anticipated, and we still played some boy versus girl rugby tackles, and Yaku won the game with this thumping tackle. When we weren't playing guitar, we listened to our new coconut radio given to us in Inhambane. I would like to show you what supplies we have for this trip. We have a tent, ground sail, hammock, rain and shade shelter, one crate of clothes each, a toolbox, a medicine box, braai tools, 25-liter petrol can, a table, pepper spray, a kitty, grass broom, 2 guitars, 1 ukulele, an amplifier, car documents, passports, French, German and Portuguese phrase books, a coconut radio, 1 crate of kitchen utensils, 1 crate for fruit and vegetables, 5-liter water cans, 1 spare tent, maps, the cheapest compressor available, 1 crate of music utilities, a spade, a spare tire, a small cooler box, and gas burners. The list of items we do not have for this trip is much longer.
Back at Inamban, making music with cool people was a regular occurrence. Our small Bryston hosted dinner parties. We ride for 12 people or more. All new friends acquired throughout the days at Baobab. We played a few gigs, one for a crowd of only 5 people, but we still had a blast of a time, of course. On day 42, we decided to get moving towards Malawi and headed inland to go north, hoping to see some more mountains, caves and waterfalls. Baobab said his goodbye with a glorious sunrise. Finances cleared in the meantime, and with some juice in the tank from an old petrol pump, we got onto the highway heading to Chimoyo.
Due to some political unrest in this stretch of Mozambique, we had to drive a 200-kilometer section of the way within a military convoy, which involved a few cars, us included, mostly trucks, and several heavily armed army vehicles, all racing the whole way, both sides of the road. There were no civilians along the way until we reached the first village outside of the danger zone. Driving through Chimoyo, we went off-road and got to a quiet campsite next to a lake. A few fun kilometers through the bush and we chose a spot under the trees which had a lovely view but a questionable electrical supply. We set up camp, made a fire and had fried banana and toast for dinner. On day 43 we drove to Tet, where we heard there was a beautiful river running through the city. After a strong coffee we hit the road back to the highway to go further north. Few more bustling towns and villages and we were amongst some stunning landscapes with the mountains as we hoped for. We drove past a rushing river and it was, of course, swim time. After a few more hours of driving we reached Tet. We crossed the river on an impressive bridge and found accommodation at a soon-to-be campsite. We enjoyed a peaceful night rest next to the river, except for the mosquitoes who were out by the millions.
On day 44, we got to Malawi. We were officially far away from home now. We woke up in a half-built chalet, had breakfast and hit the road for the Malawian border. After a hassle-free border crossing, unlike Mozambique, we entered Malawi and was immediately spoiled with a new kind of landscape.
The roads were good, but our directions not so much. But the day was young and we decided to take a smooth-looking secondary gravel road, which the map indicated goes north towards Cape Maclear.
These guys wanted to sell us deep-fried mice on a stick. We declined, of course. They were cooked with insides and all.
We soon had our first view of Lake Malawi and we had to race the sun to make it to Cape Maclear before dark. Early morning, we quickly found a local guide to show us around the village and the fun time started from the get-go.
We had many jam sessions with the local beach band called the Brother Band. They're very skilled in their homemade instruments. Back at Fat Monkey's, we inspected my hand and the burn wound was healing pretty nicely. One day we went for a snorkeling adventure at the island across the water from us.
While we splashed around, the guide prepared a local veggie dish for lunch, and it was a delightful meal with very simple ingredients. That night we went for a sundowner cruise with a friendly Afrikaans guy from South Africa on his speedboat. Every afternoon as the sun sets, the samosa man arrives with his selection of goat, fish and veggie samosas, freshly made in the village kitchen. We played a private show for the owners and their guests and got our first gig payment on the trip. Super fantastic. The staff at Fat Monkeys also baked me a birthday cake, written on it, "Happy birthday Yaku and Yaku." Wrong, but pretty awesome.
We played a few gigs for very mellow crowds. I went out partying with the German camp neighbors one night, so the next morning I was not feeling so fresh to slaughter our goat we had delivered from the village that morning.
These guys did the work and wanted to keep the blood for themselves, which they boil up as a treat. We only wanted the clean carcass and the liver. Back at camp, Yaku was up and keen to braai this goat. The liver was prepared as an appetizer and served with guacamole. Yaku was doing a master's work at preparing the goat, and the servings we had that night was highly memorable.
We planned to stay at Monkey Bay for 4 nights, but that turned into 12 nights, since the place is absolutely fantastic. We stayed for free in exchange for live music, and buying your food deep in the village allowed for very cheap living at an amazing place.
A boy from the village brought Yaku his ukulele to see if he could fix it, and he could. He tightened some bolts, he restrung the instrument with different sizes of fishing line freely available around the lake, and gave it back to the boy. He was very grateful. We could stay at Fat Monkeys forever, but we eventually had a goodbye dinner with all our friends we met over the last many days. On day 58, we left Cape Maclear and headed towards Nkata Bay. It was 2 days pole driving, so we decided to reach Kandea Beach as a halfway stop. And the roads we were driving was not on the GPS, so getting to a fork in the road, we resort to plan B, flipping our 1952 5-cent coin for a head or tails decisions. We went left.
The villages we passed were very primitive, and the kids were amazed by the car. By lunchtime, we found a local market with a greasy meal out of a dirty pan. The drive stayed interesting, with some African bridges and our spare petrol supply coming in handy. Like always, there were local kids in the bush, staring at whatever we are doing. We got to the turnoff at late night and had to travel some tricky sandy roads in the dark. But we had a local guide on the roof rack and he knew where to go. It was raining by the time we arrived and we settled in for an early night. Here are some highlights for our next episode.
Through Africa. Through Africa.
Follow us on goseeafrica.net, Facebook and YouTube. See you next time.
Through Africa.